great. We got a lot to talk about today. I mean, man. So first of all, do we want to address the elephant first?
Sure. After I say welcome everybody now on Instagram and YouTube, Sunday Night Live, our weekly live stream. You can tune in every Sunday at 7 p.m. Make sure you're watching on Instagram, and especially, guys, make sure you go watch over on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Give us your full 2 cents. Like, these live streams and its purpose is to answer all the questions that you guys have. So, yeah, you want to address it? Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
And so is Jared.
Jared Kelenic.
He's back.
Is back. He's returning to Seattle. After Eugenio Suarez got his warm welcome back to the Pacific Northwest this weekend, what will Jared Kelenic look like? It's going to look a little bit different.
Yeah, let's put a poll out there. I want to put a poll out in both chats on Instagram and on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching on Instagram, go check us out on YouTube. If you're on YouTube and not following our Instagram, go follow it. We'll be here every Sunday night live after every Sunday Mariners game at 7 o'clock. I want a yes or a no in the chat. Is he getting booed?
Well, I'll tell you what, on Instagram, the jury already seems to be out. I'm seeing a lot of booed. So far, like, vote in the poll and tell us what you think in the poll. But so far, at least on Instagram, I think people have their take.
And so here's the thing. So I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think Jared should get booed. I know there are a lot of people out there who think he should get booed. And, some people might have their own, I don't even know if it's like way of spinning it, because everyone's allowed to think the way they want, right? I have no problem with someone thinking the way they want. Perhaps people don't like Jared Kelenich's personality. I mean, that's all like 100% real, that some people don't vibe with a super intense personality. And especially when it doesn't work out, right? I mean, and it sort of, the effect snowballs to the point where he gets himself injured by kicking a cooler because he's so intense and stuff like that. And people feel like, well, he's missing there during the peak of the summer, doesn't really care about the team, etc., stuff like this. And, if that's your opinion, then that's fine. But I don't really think, it's Jared Kelenic did anything in Seattle to warrant getting booed. He was bad, but the Mariners have had a lot of really bad players in their history. To be honest, they've had a lot of really bad ones, and they don't all get booed when they come back. Yeah, he had the prospect status, but if like Dustin Ackley came back to Seattle while he was playing, he didn't get booed like that. He wouldn't get booed like that.
I have a take. How much?
I like takes.
How much of the reason people have somewhat of a disdain for Jared Kelenic, not just because of the outbursts, because to your point, again, there are other failed prospects like Dustin Ackley, like others. How much of it has to do with the fact that he looks like the head of Rush at Sigma Chi at ASU? Like, how much of it plays a factor into that?
I'll give Jared this. He would have played a frat bro perfectly if baseball wasn't his thing. He would have knocked it out of the park.
Like how much of it do you think has to do with that? Like the whole look, the persona. I don't know. If he looks
is this like a jealousy thing?
I don't know, but if he looked like one of us, would the hate be this high?
I don't know. This could be a slippery slope here. I'm honestly not sure, because I think is like jealousy out there with some people, and like, sure, I guess there could be, again, it could be a whole number of factors. It could be the way he spoke. It could be the way like his personality changed from when he came up and he was loud and brash and outspoken till, he sort of dialed it down. And then some people could really just hate the fact he changed his swing 3 times in 3 years and saw no success. And he changed it again this year and is not having any more success. Like, some people could just be like, why don't you try, like, be patient? And they feel like, and he's not.
Yeah, I mean, it all plays a factor. I've heard some people on the radio like talk about that thing in the past. Again, like the fact he kind of looks like Johnny Lawrence from the Karate Kid. Like, I've heard some people.
Yeah,
I've heard some people talk about, like, does that play a factor into all of it? That he looks like every 80s movie villain ever. But anyway,
like the jealousy factor there, and I'm not trying to single anyone out here, but like in generalizing. Like, some people want to look like Jared Kelenic, and why could you blame him? I would also want to be 6 foot, beautiful, and jacked. Who doesn't?
That's fair. Yeah, so maybe that plays a factor, but I am very interested to see what the reaction is going to be, because I'm with you. I don't think he should get booed, and let's be real. Like, I know his first 2 years were tough. He wasn't that bad last year. Like, his numbers as a whole, I know after the month of April, he struggled. Numbers as a whole, he was he was about an average player. He wasn't some awful piece of the team. He was an average contributor. But I think the fact that how he left between the social media posts, he didn't give any love to the Mariners org, the intro press conference at Truist Park during Fan Fest when he said, "Oh, Atlanta's gonna play way better than Seattle," as if, like insinuating that he hated hitting in Seattle, and all the stuff he said on Foul Territory. I honestly wonder if some of the aftermath of the trade has more to do with how he will or will not get reacted to, paired with his on-field play.
Do we take any account to what he posted on Instagram today? I was honestly trying to decipher it. So what song did he use? I forget.
It was he Yeah, he used Grove Street Party by Waka Flocka Flame.
Right. And I was listening along and like, is there any hidden message in here? I could not find one. I couldn't find on the picture or the song. But like he's posting what was his caption? What was his
Onward.
caption? Onward, yeah. Is he saying like was that something? Was that directed up here?
I don't know, but the timing of that post feels very, very specific.
Like, if the Braves come here and sweep, which I already saw a comment. Thank you for the optimism in the Instagram chat that the Braves.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's gonna be an interesting return. Like here's what we've talked about on a couple of the podcasts. It could be a nothing burger, especially because weeknight games in April sometimes do not draw a huge crowd, and as a result of that, maybe it's a 18,000 person crowd, and maybe there's some mixed cheers, maybe there's some mixed boos, maybe it's a whole lot of nothing. But like the reason this is a talking point is like whatever it's going to be, the reaction is going to be very different than what we saw for Gino this past weekend. Gino got nothing but love from the entire fan base, and that's how it should have been. He's a fan favorite for a reason. He will continue to be a fan favorite. He was loved in his time here. But obviously, Jared's a little more polarizing than that for a multitude of different reasons. So whatever the reaction is going to be, it could be some cheers, it could be a lot of nothing, it may be booze. Like we don't know. We're not going to know till tomorrow. But I think we know the reaction is going to be different than what Gino got this weekend.
It's a Friday crowd. Say this Arizona and Atlanta series swapped, and Jared Kelenic batting eighth on Friday night in the Braves lineup. What's the reaction then?
Feels like it would trend more toward the negative side. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think so. I just think there'd be enough people that were disappointed in the idea of Jared Kelenic to, like, unfairly, I'd say take it out of him because the Mariners certainly, as we've talked about numerous times, did not handle Jared Kelnic's situation very well, yanking him up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down to the point that was kind of detrimental to his development. And certainly the COVID year really threw it off. I would be very curious to see what kind of player Jared Kelenic would be if the COVID pandemic and the minor league season lost in 2020 never happened, because he would have probably debuted like at the end of that year, or at the very least, he would have gotten a full season of high minors, and they wouldn't.
Yeah.
2 weeks in AAA, and now you're up. Like what would have that been? And like, so the idea of Jared Kelenic, I think people were just disappointed that they didn't get. It was supposed to be Julio and a different version of Julio in center and right field. That's what it was supposed to be. And no one got it. And and some people, might take out that frustration on him. Right. And it's disappointing. And it's disappointing for him too, because he's gone to Atlanta and he's now really struggled again.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right. Exactly. Okay. We've spent our first 10 minutes or so on that. Let's try to get to some questions from some people. If people want us to talk more about that, we can. If you've got questions that you want us to talk about, otherwise, send them. And if you're watching on YouTube and you feel like you want to, like our super chat's open too. If you want to send a super chat question, that's just, you don't feel obligated, but it's open if you want to. All right. I'll look on Instagram here real quick. Oh, this is one to get started with. This is from Baker McQueen. I am going to cry about Matt Brash. So if you happen to live under a rock, Justin Hollander talked about this weekend that Matt Brash was supposed to start on a rehab outing with Tacoma. He is shut down now for the foreseeable future. He is headed back to Dallas to meet with his doctor to get evaluated, seek some more opinions on what to do next. So what they've talked about with Matt Brash is he's not having an issue ramping up. He is getting up to 97, 98, 99 miles an hour with his fastball. He's throwing his breaking balls. It's the days after where he does not respond well, and that's what has the Mariners concerned because he is not responding the way they want him to respond. Hollander's exact words when Brash was at T-Mobile Park Friday and was ramping up, it was like he tried to get back and throw again the day after really ramping up to full speed, and he said every pitch felt really bad. That is not a good sign. So we will see what happens. We'll see what the appointment with the doctor ends up warning as a result. But like a lot of you guys, I think both TJ and I are concerned that this could be worst case scenario. Sure, there's a chance that maybe it is just further soreness or something minor with Brash. I would say it's a small chance where maybe they have to shut him down for another couple weeks. He ramps back up. Maybe in the summertime, he's fully ready to pitch again. But I think a lot of people, for good reason, are starting to feel like this could be trending toward worst possible scenario. What does worst possible scenario mean? Well, like a lot of other pitchers in baseball this year, Brash could be headed for Tommy John, meaning he'd be out till about summer of next season, which would really, really suck.
I'm going to say I'm not expecting to see Matt Brash pitch for the next 365 days. It just sort of feels like that. I would just be, I would even be shocked if he's ready by opening day next year, even if it is, like you said, just soreness. Like usually this level of soreness suggests something. Now, here's the thing. One, it would not be the lineup. It would not be the starting rotation. It would be the bullpen. Now, you're going to be replacing a very valuable member of that bullpen, the one who led your team in appearances last year and has the best stuff arguably in baseball. It's not an easy thing to replace, but just think of it as simply as this. You know, who's slid
Mhm.
to whether it be a lefty or righty in the box, total high leverage, he's gone in there and he's dominated. He's dominated this year. Not many teams can just slide a guy in there like that. And it's not the same look as Brash. It's not the same arsenal as Brash, but the job's getting done. So stinks to see Brash out. If they can just get Santos back, just get Gregory Santos back, get him healthy, get him ramped up okay, and get him back on this roster throwing in June, I think the Mariners will be all right. Like, I think the pitching staff will still have enough bullets for it to be totally compact. But this is becoming very much a if healthy.
For sure. And the rest of this bullpen is really going to need to stay healthy. We got a comment on this same topic from Brandon Stafford on Instagram. He said, "Sad to see Santos on the 60 day. Let me ease your sadness. They did not put Gregory Santos on the 60-day injured list because he is going to all of a sudden now miss more time. That was just that precautionary is not even the right move. It was they did so they could bring Leo Rivas up and open up a 40-man spot for him because Gregory Santos was not going to be ready by the minimum 60 days anyway. So what that means is the earliest Gregory Santos can return is late May. Maybe it'll be early June, but that's what they were expecting anyway. The pace he's on puts him on track for about that time. So if you saw Santos get on the 60-day IL and think to yourself, "Oh no, all of a sudden he's even more injured, he's going to miss more time." No, that's not what it is. Like nothing with Santos' progression right now from where it is has changed. They just had to make that move to open up a 40-man spot. And when Santos is back, it should be around the same timeline we're already expecting, and he'll get placed back in there. And Justin Hollander talked about that this weekend. So I wouldn't worry about that too much because Santos is still on the right track.
I think this is a very interesting question. Comes in on YouTube from Ethan. This might be a question we'll dive into more in depth on the pod as we get closer to JP coming back. But he says, when JP comes back, are they going to still put JP at leadoff, or would you consider keeping Rojas up there? Because Rojas, man, has been just killing it this year. He is like him and JP feel at their peak like similar hitters. And if you could, sort of plug and play either of them at the top of the lineup, it really opens up a lot of opportunity. Now, I will say if they're both swinging at their peak, it's I don't know, say Josh takes the month that JP's out and just destroys pitching while he's up there at the top of the lineup. It's going to be a really hard decision to
I
make.
don't even know where the other one would hit. I guess you could hit him 1 and 2 and slide Julio down to 3, but that feels like you'd be taking at bats away from Julio. So I feel like whichever one isn't hitting leadoff, maybe they hit closer to 6 or 7 in the lineup. Not that it really matters. Like I don't think big leaguers care all that much where they're hitting in the lineup, just as long as they're hitting. So I think for that sake, it'll all work itself out in the right way. But yeah, if Josh Rojas keeps hitting like this, he probably will stay there. And then maybe when there's a lefty on the mound, you'd see JP hit leadoff in that scenario because Rojas need not be on the lineup against lefties. It'd be Urias. So, like here, Mariners actually says Rojas 1, Julio 2, JP 9 on Instagram. Like that is an option. JP could be the guy that flips the lineup over because
I
again,
don't know if I want them hitting all the way in the 9 spot though.
well, that's where Rojas was hitting for a while, 8 or 9.
But if Rojas like stays in the leadoff spot and is like crushing the ball, you don't want him in the 9 hole.
No, you don't. So, but you also don't want to take at bats away from Julio, right? Like he shouldn't. Like you couldn't.
No, well, I say he hit 6th. If they keep up, like JP Crawford from last year, he hit leadoff, but that's the type of bat you could hit 5th or 6th as well.
Yeah,
with that sort of output, right? So it can work.
Yeah, and the good news about JP is he was out doing some work on the field today, like preliminary work, but he talked about he's feeling a lot better, at least per what Daniel Kramer reported today. And it's still going to take him a little bit of time to get back, but that is good news that he's starting to feel better, and it's not lingering around or anything like that. So the sooner they can get JP Crawford back, as we all know, the better.
Here's an interesting proposition. Peter on YouTube says put Garver in the 9 hole. Now I'm gonna dive into this a little bit. I'm curious whether this is a put your worst hitter at 9, or you actually think Garver in the 9 hole based on his past on base ability would actually be a good idea. If the Mariners, I don't know, if the Mariners get like if Mitch Garver spends this, let's say the final 4 months of the season. So let's say he struggles. June, the final 4 months of the season, he just destroys it and he turns into Mitch Garver last season. He's getting on base like 37-38% of the time. Is that the worst idea in the world? If you would rather have JP Crawford hitting 6th, you put your 2 worst bats at 7 and 8, and then Garver flips the lineup around.
Garver has too much power to be doing that. I think 5 through 7 is Garver's sweet spot. I don't know if he should be hitting 3rd. And if he really starts to go off like he did last year, and I hope he does, then maybe you talk about it. But it feels like that 5 to 7 range is his sweet spot. That's where he hit in Texas for the most part last year. Obviously, that lineup was really good. He was a part of that very good lineup and a good reason for it. I don't know. 9 just doesn't feel like what his profile represents.
And I feel like, yeah, I agree with you. I was sort of just playing devil's advocate there. But if Garver's hitting well and JP's hitting well, then I think you would put one of JP or Rojas back in the 9 spot, even though I'd say them hitting at their peak shouldn't be. If Garver's also doing that, it makes it a little bit easier, because then essentially all you have to worry about is your 7 hole and your 8 hole, and everything else is good. And Ty France is going to be one of those spots, which, once Ty France starts elevating the ball a little bit, will make that 7 hole look pretty damn good.
Oh, and we're missing the obvious here, but from BDN 55-540 on Instagram, Garver can't run. So another thing that probably deteriorates him away from hitting 9.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's right. That's, absolutely correct. It would be unique, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like that was a close play at the plate yesterday on that ball Garver scored on from second.
It shouldn't have been.
Yeah, like I guess McCarthy doesn't have a very good arm, but Garver really had to run there.
John Forward on Instagram saying JP should bat 3rd. Interesting. So here's the stipulation. If you want JP batting 3rd, that could happen if JP comes back and he's crushing the ball and then Polanco is not. Then you could probably see a scenario like that. And then you also go left, right, left. Mm-hmm. Rojas, lead off, left-handed hitter. Julio, second, right-handed hitter. JP, 3rd, left-handed hitter. And that's how Scott likes it. You could balance it out that way. Right. And then you'd probably bat Cal 5th, because I would assume if that's the lineup, he would be facing a right-hand pitcher, and you'd put Ty France cleanup. Who'd you put cleanup in that? Garver. You'd probably want Garver, but not the way he's hitting.
Did you already say Cal? Cal would hit 3rd.
Cal would hit 5th. So JP's hitting third,
Oh,
and Scott likes flip-flopping the lefties and the righties. Cal would
yeah.
hit fifth.
I mean, Polanco can switch hit, so maybe Polanco or maybe Garver.
So in this scenario, though, they're facing a righty on the mound.
Yeah, then probably Garver.
And JP only hits third if Polanco's not hitting well, I assume.
Probably Garver.
Yeah. It should be Garver, but not the way Garver's hitting, which kind of leaves you in a conundrum. It might just be Ty France at that point.
Right. Somebody asked a while back up, I hope I can find the person's name, but they asked what has to happen for Polanco and Garver to get going. And oh, here we go. It's from Brady Bomb 2 on Instagram. What has to change for the two of them? Garver has to find a way to start. I mean, Mitch Garver career-wise is not a big strikeout guy. It's not like he never strikes out. He doesn't have a Juan Soto strikeout profile, but he's usually a low to mid-ish 20 strikeout guy. Very like league average, reasonable, nothing over the top. Well, right now he's striking out a lot. He's chasing it a good bit. He's got to hit some breaking balls. So for Garver, at the very least, it's that. They need him desperately because he's supposed to be the second best bat in the lineup. At worst, third behind Polanco.
You got to wonder if it's the bat speed. Could be him deviating from his approach a little bit to try and make up for his lack of, I guess, feel of hitting pitches in the zone. I do think we need more than a month. And when the ball, it's the weather starts warming up and the ball starts flying a little bit further, that would be nice. So I think we'll get a better idea then. We want to damage. Like we want a damage, them to hit the ball and hit the ball hard and hit it consistently hard. Like that's what they've done in their careers. And Polanco had a week where he was doing that. And ever since it's been walking at essentially a Juan Soto rate. And that's it.
Someone just said, can Garver cork his bat? Well, for about 10 days, he'd probably start hitting a lot and then he'd probably get in trouble. So I'm going to say, let's not have Mitch Garver cork his bat. Personally.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down for him not to get suspended.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me scroll up for some other questions.
Here's a positive Jared comment. Jared is my favorite player, and I check on him every day. Wow, I think that, we got two now. Two in the chat.
Who's it from? Oh, here we go. Yeah, Levi Hollingsworth. Shout out to you, Levi.
Let's see. Here's a proposed lineup. Rojas first, J-Rod second, Cal third, Polanco eighth. He just got set down, so apologies for that. It would probably be Sam Haggerty's spot, and then JP ninth. Ideally, sure, it is a little left-handed heavy, but that lineup works. It's kind of similar to what they rolled out on opening day.
Very similar. That's pretty similar to the lineup we threw out there in the offseason. I think we had Cal and Polanco flipped. I think we had Polanco at 3. But yeah, that's a pretty fair lineup and a lineup that could work pretty well. There's something we should probably talk about. That just happened in the last hour, speaking of Class A. So he just got optioned down to Tacoma. Sam Haggerty's coming back up, which, I mean, it's two people who are Sam Haggerty fans. We are obviously very happy for Sam Haggerty and excited to see him back on the roster. And even from a developmental standpoint, it was cool to see Class A provide a bit of a shot in the arm for the team because he did do that when he got up here. But I think we're also starting to see now that there's still things he has to work on in terms of his development. Obviously, the hit tool is going to have to get a little bit more consistent. He is fast, but there are things about his defensive game that need improvement too. So that ball he took the route on today, I'm not going to say it was a can of corn because it wasn't, but that was the winning run of the game. And if he takes a better route on that ball, it gets caught and the winning run doesn't score. So that right there is an example of, well, maybe he needs a little bit more time in the minors because that's an important run that they unfortunately popped up today.
And as he offers so much upside, but the Mariners are better with Sam Haggerty on the roster. They can both play the outfield. They both switch hit. They both have a little bit of power. He's probably not the base runner that Clase is, but Sam's a pretty darn good base runner. Mm-hmm. I mean, that dude, when he gets on late in a game, is dangerous. He can steal bases. He runs the bases well. Doesn't have the Clase has 70 grade speed. Regardless, he doesn't have 79 steal potential, but Sam's a solid player, and he's also an A+ human being. Super nice guy, friend of the pod, and we're happy that, assuming he's coming up.
Yeah, no, he is.
Yeah.
Daniel Kramer reported that he is. So
yeah.
Also, he's hitting over 300 in Tacoma in a short sample so far. So he's hitting down there. We know he can run. We know he can do a lot of things on defense and play a bunch of different positions. So yeah, like this move makes plenty of sense.
Here's a good one. Like, let's deviate from the present for a second. Ask you a question. This comes from Brandon Stafford. What's your favorite Mariners game of all time?
See, questions like this are fun. We're happy to talk about, of course, the current team. But if you guys have fun questions like this to get us thinking, like send them. Like these questions are a lot of fun to start talking about. Favorite Mariners game of all time? I mean, do we have to throw out me being a ball clincher and despite the loss, the playoff game? Because those are the two that come to mind.
Yeah, so let's throw out the obvious ones. Let's give you a bit more of a thinking exercise.
Okay. So those two thrown out the window.
I have my answer.
I was at game 161 in 2014 when Austin Jackson had the walk-off, essentially ground out, but beat it out at first base to force a game 162. That was Robinson Cano's first full year there. And that was the first time really in my lifetime with a real memory that the Mariners had somewhat of a chance to get into the playoffs, because I never experienced a game 162 before at that point in my life where the Mariners had a chance to keep playing baseball. So to be at that game that night, despite playing against the AAA roster for the Angels, Trout got pulled out of the game in like the fifth inning because the Angels had already clinched the division. They didn't need him. And it was like, it wasn't a good game. It was 2-1 because the Mariners couldn't score any runs against a AAA team, but it was certainly a lot of fun. And when they walked it off, that was as excited as I've ever seen that ballpark to that point. So I would say that one.
I'm going to pick the same year. Do you remember the night court game?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that game. Was a lot of fun, even though they lost because Fernando Rodney walked in the winning run. But
he walked
great
like
environment.
6 guys in a row in that game.
What's up?
He walked like 4 or 5 straight guys in that game.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. But I forever in my mind have it seared of Robinson Cano's game-tying home run, I think in the 7th or 8th inning, where that was his first one of the year where it was like a true Robbie swing, like uncorks and has the bat drop, and it's like a sellout crowd of 45,000, and they just lost it and then lost the game.
Someone just said, how old are you? Like you weren't around in 2001 ? Well, I was 3 years old. I don't have much memory of 01. The first real season I have a memory of is 04, which sucks because that's right when they started losing. So yeah, I don't have much of a memory of 01. I was alive, but I can't tell you much about it from pure memory. I can only just go off of watching videos on YouTube and looking things up online and hearing stories. That's, it's not for my own memory.
Right. And yeah, and it's the same thing with me. It's like the reason Lyle and I don't bring up anything of 95. We weren't alive. Mm-hmm. So can't comment on that. But those are like fun games, but it sort of like epitomizes our Mariners fandom that we sort of got into it at the, probably not the most marketable time for the franchise.
Mm-hmm. Someone says Ichiro is the greatest player ever. You have thoughts on that, TJ?
You can make a case. You could play around with the numbers. I know Foolish Baseball did a video out there that Ichiro could have hit 500 homers, and then you could really make the argument. It's like, yeah, who's playing D? You're listing off Willie Mays, Griffey. I mean, we're listing through some pretty good players right there. Barry Bonds.
Yeah, all right. I'm reading the Instagram comments. Guys, we got to chill out a little bit about all this firing talk. First off, like a month into the season, Scott Service genuinely is a very, very good manager. I know all you guys
are in first place.
Yeah, like they're in first.
What are we doing?
Like I'm seeing stuff. Like we're seeing stuff about Brand Brown. We're seeing stuff about Scott. Like, Scott's been a Manager of the Year finalist multiple years in a row. His players love him. He's genuinely very tuned in on the modern game. Like knows how to handle a clubhouse. There are not a lot of Scott Service in baseball. Seriously, and I mean that. I don't think there's a reason Scott Service is the second longest tenured manager in the game right now behind Kevin Cash, and there's a reason he gets nominated for Manager of the Year. He's a good manager. It's hard to find another Scott Service. I really do believe that. And
I agree. Yeah. I think I'm not a fan of those comments. And also think of this. Does firing Scott, like, ask yourself this question. I want you guys to answer this yourself. Does firing Scott Service fix anything this season? What does it fix?
Like, I'll take it one step further. Does firing Brant Brown fix anything? Like, people are ready to give, like, this, show this guy the door after 25 games or whatever. Like, don't we want to see a whole year of the new offensive scheme and at least get a sample size?
So, like, a comment here from Steven saying, well, the offensive quote unquote approach is not working. Like, sure, it is. Like, right now, it has not been great. They've been about an average offense, give or take. By WRC Plus, I believe they're average. Overall, the eye test, they look average. But, like, the offensive philosophy is not just going to change overnight. Like, they spent all offseason implementing this. It is organizational wide what they're doing offensively. You don't just flip the switch and change it overnight. Like, it's not that simple. You would have to wait until at least next season to see anything different, because overall, they built this roster around this offensive approach. It doesn't just change.
No, it does not.
So, like, if you could be very disappointed and also not want someone fired. I think, like,
yeah, like the firing talk gets a little crazy sometimes. Like, everybody's entitled to their opinions, but like, I think
and no, you're right. Like, and the strikeouts have not been reduced. You're right, and that's so disappointing. And like it needs to change. They cannot keep striking out this much because the power in the lineup is not the same as it was last year.
Right.
So you can't continue to strike out that much. Strikeouts are higher than they were last year. Then Lauer are going to sit on here and say this was a failure.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Like, flat out. But we got to see more than 1 month.
Here's another fun question on YouTube. Oh, this is from a friend of mine. What's up, Knock? This is from Kevin. He said, "Who wins a home run derby between Julio and Ichiro in the new and old format?" You know, like,
I feel like Ichiro would win.
I was gonna say, so maybe some of you listen to this episode, maybe not. If you haven't, I encourage you to go back and listen. During the summer last year, we had Jason Stark on, Hall of Fame writer. Awesome conversation. And there is the possibility, as Jason's talked about a Legends home run derby coming into play sometime down the road with retired big leaguers all going up against each other in a home run derby. If that ever happens, Ichiro has to do it, man. Like, now he's not playing in games. There's no reason to say no to doing it. I always said, if Ichiro was in a home run derby, I think he could have won one. And I think if he was in a Legends home run derby, call it a hot take if you want, I legitimately think he could beat Poppy and A-Rod and Frank Thomas and whoever else. So Julio versus Ichiro, we'll say both in their primes. I'll say old format Ichiro, new format Julio.
I agree. Okay. Because Julio will get the distance bonus.
Mm-hmm.
No distance bonus in the last one, I don't think.
Right.
The old one.
And
all Ichiro is going to do is hit a 380-foot home run to right field over and over and over and over and over again. So, like, Ichiro's BP routine, I'm sure some of you know this, but if you don't, like, his BP routine, how many rounds they take? 4?
Something like that.
Right? It's like 4, give or take. Every single time, first swing is a home run. Every single time he wants to hit a home run, he'll golf one into the right field seats. Yeah. Easy as can be. You don't think he could, and it's such an easy swing for him too, with little effort. To think that he couldn't just sit there and knock 35 in a home run derby would be kind of silly. I think he could do it.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
And if you haven't seen it, by the way, appointment viewing on YouTube, like, I really like this creator, Foolish Baseball, did a video on if Ichiro could have hit 500 home runs, and he dug up some very interesting things. So if that's something that would interest you, I'd go check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. What else we got?
Ichiro might be too old now, probably, but I'd say we talk about in his prime.
Yeah, I think the idea is here. The idea here is Ichiro and Julio are both in their prime when they go up against each other.
What do we think about Cal Raleigh being an all-star this year? This one's coming from Samurais on Instagram.
You know, sign me right up, right? Like, he's going to have to keep hitting, but you look at catchers around the American League, obviously he's going to be up there. He's going to be in the conversation. The fact he's gotten off to a good start for the most part in April has helped a lot. And I mean, the series in Colorado helped him a lot because he had and Cincy because he had a couple awesome. Or no, sorry, Toronto and Colorado. Those are the two series he went off. But getting off to a good start helped him a ton. And yeah, the dude's gonna make a couple All-Star games in his career. Why not have the first one be here in 2024? He's got a real shot.
Yeah, I'd be down. Certainly playing enough.
Here's a fun exercise. Right now, who could you give a nod to be a Mariners All-Star? Like Rojas for sure. Cal, probably. Yeah, probably. You know what I'm gonna say? Actually, I'll save him for last. But there's a couple of starting pitchers. I'm sure Logan, Bryce, probably those two. And last but not least, this is also going to turn into a homework assignment from everybody listening. Gabe Spire. Gabe Spire is pitching like an all-star right now. And I have a homework assignment for every single person in here. Saves are a boomer stat. And there are not a lot of relievers that get into the all-star game. It's usually closers. So when ballots come out this year, go out and go for Gabe Spire as much as you possibly can. Because give a non-closer a shot to get in the All-Star game. You know how valuable this guy's been for the Mariners this year? You know where this team would be if he wasn't pitching like this? Not in first place. Get this guy in the All-Star game. So
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be voting for him when the ballots come out. So yeah. Anyway, those are the guys I'd say would be an All-Star right now is Rojas, Cal, Spire, Bryce, Logan.
Didn't say Julio.
Right now, like this second?
Yeah, he's probably not.
Like his OPS isn't even at 700 yet. I am sure
He's not
in
quite there
July
yet.
he will be an
And like,
All-Star. But yeah.
I'm sure he will too. And I think a Julio conversation will be down the road. I mean, he's still not really like elevating it enough. Saw his first home run this week down in Texas. It was an absolute nuke. But I'd say overall the consistency is still not there from Julio. But again, we can give him some more time.
Mm-hmm.
He's as the commenter says, Levi says, he will come along. Yes, he will.
Yeah, for sure. What else we got?
Let's see. If you were to pick, like, Lyle, if you were to pick the two pitchers let's say two Mariners starters make the All-Star game right now, which two would it be? Which, actually, you know what? No, let's not do right now. Let's say if you're going to predict right now, which two, let's say two of them make the All-Star game, which two?
Mm-hmm. Well, right now I would say Logan and Bryce. By July.
I'm saying by July, which two make it?
Yeah, by July, I will say Logan and Kirby. And Luis has a chance too, but I'll say Logan and Kirby.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, Bryce might run into a road bump or something like that, and then, yeah, I mean, Luis always has the ability to. But man, I can't get over what George did yesterday. That is as good. I sat and watched all 9 innings of that Felix start, the Felix retirement night start he had against the Orioles last year. He looked better last night. His stuff was unbelievable.
Like when he gets into it was from the first inning too. I remember watching that first inning and maybe blowing this out of proportion a little bit. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, that is one of the best first innings I've ever watched from any pitcher. That looked like the most effortless thing I've ever seen. So like it was, I mean, borderline shy of an immaculate inning. I mean, you're talking 3 up, 3 down, 3 strikeouts, absolutely buzzsawed right through them. Crazy. Like when George Kirby pitches like that, I'm not sure there's anybody that can do it better than George when he's pitching like that. Of all the aces in baseball, I'm not like when everybody has their A game, aside from maybe I'll say Garrett Cole. I'm not sure anybody can do it better than George Kirby when he's looking like that.
And yesterday, he didn't even, in that first inning, he didn't even try and really throw his off-speed pitches. He was only throwing fastballs. He was like, here it is, come hit it. 98, 99, 97, and nobody was hitting it. It was truly unbelievable. And there are times when George's fastball is a little hittable, but last night was not that case, man. Nobody could touch that pitch.
No.
And we also sat there kind of worried. It's like, oh, he got an extra day rest. Is he okay? Because he wasn't feeling all that good after his last start.
Again, I cannot stress it enough. There are very, very few pitchers in baseball that when everybody has their A game, that can pitch like George Kirby. That is a spectacle when he's on.
It's like so Mitchell throws us in the YouTube chat. It's almost like a Strider fastball. Like Strider, I think, has the best fastball in baseball. Would you say that? Does he have the best? Him or Cole?
Pretty close.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that's something they do where they could throw their fastball at will and get only whiff after whiff after whiff after whiff on that pitch. And George doesn't always have that. But last night he did. And he's also got the command those guys don't.
Right. Let's see. Well, there's a couple saying like, how awesome is this pitching to watch? Like I said, like I mean, how much more can we say? It's the most fun in baseball. They don't even have Brian Wu yet, so it's only going to get even more exciting. And I can't wait to see what Brian Wu does in year 2 because we know that stuff is when it's at its best. Like the upside of Brian Wu is a frontline starter, and right now that's your 5. So yeah, pretty cool.
Uh, Levi saying no word on Jared. We did talk about Jared at the beginning. So for those of you who actually have joined and did not hear the first 10 minutes when we talked about Jared, just I would say a 30-second synopsis. We're curious whether or not Jared's going to get booed when he's at T-Mobile Park tomorrow. I think he will. I don't think he deserves to. Is my short answer to that.
Yeah, that's the consensus I had too. The only other thing I added is depends on the crowd size. If it's a large crowd, there's more of a chance of it. If it's a typical weeknight crowd, it may be a nothing burger. I think this is the 3rd or 4th week or like at least the 3rd-ish week in a row we've gotten this question. It's fine. We can answer it again because it is a talking point. From Clough02 on Instagram, they said thoughts on going to a 6-man rotation. I just don't think it's going to happen. I know we've floated it out there before, but when Brian Wu gets back, I think that is his spot. And Emerson Hancock will be up in the big leagues again this year. It's not the last time we're going to see Emerson. But for the time being, I think he'll likely go back to Tacoma, start pitching, keep making starts, keep working on stuff. When he's needed, he'll come back up. But I think Wu's spot is definitively his, and when he's back, it'll just be a typical 5-man. Right. Right.
They don't see we have the perfect encapsulation of how the reaction is going to be to Jared. We have a comment on YouTube that's saying, I'm booing Jared for sure. And then there's another comment here on Instagram. Why would Jared get booed?
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So maybe it's going to be a mixed bag.
It probably will be. It might be like a really awkward sound, his first at bat.
Yeah.
Like a mixed cheer and boo. But like boos are boos.
Right.
So let's see. Okay. Let's get a few more in here as we wrap this up. It's been good. I mean, can we just like acknowledge teams playing well? Like this has been the best vibes out of any.
It's fun. It's fun when the team plays well.
I know.
I agree.
They should try more often.
Winning fixes everything. Winning cures all.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, we think about all the time of just consistent winning. What it like the Mariners have been a consistent winning franchise. How much bigger would the fan base be? Be a lot bigger because more people would care.
There would have been a whole generation of people our age that grew up more Mariners fans rather than only being Seahawk fans and not really caring about baseball. There's so many people out there that don't follow baseball, and when they hear the Mariners, it's just like, I don't know much about them. I just know they're always really bad, which, as we know, over the last 3 or 4 years now is not true. People are so tuned out. I think, though, they're starting to make their trend back toward relevancy in the market, making people realize, oh, these guys are fun. They're a lot different than they used to be. Like the old Mariners are dead. I say that all the time. This is not your Mariners you grew up with. This is a fun team that is very competitive. So,
yeah. Okay, you want to pick up one last one, and I'll pick out one last one, and then we'll put a bow tie on this one for tonight.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. When, if ever, would we see the Mariners try to manufacture a few runs? With pitching, it seems like we could get away with some get on, get over, and get in. So the overall point of this, of the Mariners offense not needing to be as good, is correct. Because of this pitching staff, the offense does not need to win baseball games. However, they're not built to do that. I'd say the roster's not really built to have a lot of good bunters on the team and a lot of speed on the base paths. If you notice, it's not the most fast team in the world outside of Julio and Haggerty. It's not a team full of burners on the base paths. So that kind of like almost that factor alone disincentivizes you from playing small ball. But you have to just ask yourself this question when playing small ball. It's like, am I trying to score a run or multiple runs? And then you go from there. And I would say in most innings, no matter what, the Mariners are trying to score multiple runs. 3 runs a night, no matter how good your pitching is, you're going to be kind of limited. And if you just play small ball, it's just going to hurt your upside a little bit too much.
Yeah, I'm with that. Let's see. Trying to find one more good one. Well, what's your ideal Mariners lineup order? Well, we talked about that a little bit. Maybe I'll leave that one for now. But yeah, if we get here, let's try to find one more good one before we wrap up. Scrolling on Instagram and YouTube. But
yeah, and while Lyle's scrolling, just a reminder to all of those of you who are in here, if you're watching us on YouTube, we're also live on Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, we're also live on YouTube. Please, if you're not subscribed or following all of our accounts at Marine Layer Pod, please go do so. It really helps support us and helps keep us going. And hey, we really appreciate it. We like having you guys back in here every single Sunday night. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing these. It is way more communal and way more engaging than us just doing a podcast and posting it. We can reply to all your comments, but it doesn't really feel the same without the live interaction. And I think Lau and I really do appreciate this aspect of it, and hope you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah. All right. I've got one short one and one other one. Will Julio hit 20 home runs this year? Yes, he will.
Yeah.
And then,
yes, he will.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident in saying that. The real one, who has been a surprise this year? Or the surprise this year? You could take that either way. So Josh Rojas is the easy answer. And we talked about him a little bit just for how awesome he's been. I would say him. And I'll say this. I am not shocked that Bryce Miller is pitching well, but the steps he's made in one offseason to essentially going from having 2 pitches at the end of last year to having some dynamite stuff all of a sudden, splitter, slider, like he's made some huge jumps in not that long a time. So I would say for me, I'd pick those 2 guys.
So I'm going to do the easy answer too with Josh Rojas, and then I'll also pick a more not obscure answer, but like we're the biggest Gabe Spire fans there are.
Mm-hmm.
Unicorn last year. If you want to know the unicorn stat, you can go check out our bullpen preview about a month ago where we talked about this stat. But he's a literal one-of-a-kind pitcher, Gabe Spire. And he has taken that next step to this year where we sit here, Lau and I sit down and discuss how many left-hand relievers in baseball are actually better than he is. You can't even count him on one hand. You can't. In fact, he's at this point, he's probably top 3 reliever, a lefty reliever.
And he might be climbing up higher than that with every passing day. Josh Hader is not having a good season to start the year. Like, Gabe Spire is one of the best left-handed relievers in Major League Baseball. Fact.
The Mariners got Gabe Spire from the Royals. Montage of Josh Hader on Twitter and says, Gabe Spire when the Mariners calling him on November this year. And he quote tweets it this year. It's like looking back on it like a year and a half later, it's like, oh, Gabe Spire's actually just better than Josh Hader now.
Crazy.
So that's a great way to put it.
He's been so big for this team, especially with the loss of Brash, and we'll see for how long the loss of Brash will be. Like, I'm sure we're going to find out in the next week or so. But yeah, to have Gabe Spire doing what he's doing, because he is a true high leverage arm right now. Like, seeing what he did today, seeing what he did against the Rangers and Corey Seager, high leverage arm, and he's doing it unbelievably well. So yeah,
and he's going to need to be called upon now with no Brash.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and you know what? And I'll say Mahal too, who's Diamond and Deep on Instagram. He said Trent Thornton deserves some love too. He does. I know he gave up the game-winning run today, but Trent Thornton's season as a whole, he has been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all been good to see. It has been marvelous how the Mariners have maneuvered this
Mm-hmm.
bullpen. Really awesome. And unless you got anything else to add, Lyle, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning along. Another Sunday Night Live. We'll be right back here on YouTube and Instagram a week from now. We'll talk next Sunday. So make sure to go again at Marine Layer Pod on TikTok, Instagram. To Talk some Mariners. Love you guys. We'll talk soon.